Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our New York Islanders franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we did make ourselves a trade basically in the offseason to acquire ourselves another goal scorer who hasn't really proven himself so far, but obviously he's been doing better with our team, which is good to see in Timo Jaskalainen. So our team still obviously on paper isn't super strong. However, I do feel like we have a solid three lines that actually could produce. And obviously our fourth line is also getting a little bit better because Leeson is growing nicely. Our defensive core is getting a bit stronger. Like, at least we're starting to progress nicely, and hopefully this team continues to do better as the season goes on, because we are off to a better start than we have been in the last few years. However, obviously it's still not the best record of 11-7-1, so I'm hoping a team could maybe kind of take off a little bit in this episode, and obviously we can make it into the playoffs. Now, we aren't going to simulate the rest of the season in this episode. We'll probably simulate to a day before the trade deadline. That way we can kind of make a decision if we want to continue to push for the playoffs this year, or if we want to maybe offload a player that we don't need anymore, and obviously kind of just get back some picks and go back into like a rebuild for one more year, and then basically next year we could try and push for the playoffs again. But I think we're definitely on the cusp of being a playoff team. It's just obviously going to take a lot better of an effort, because like I was mentioning, our goals for per game currently is 18th, which is not the best in the world. It's not the greatest, it's not the worst either. Our goals against per game, on the other hand, has been something that I've been impressed by. We are 13th in that category, but we're first on the penalty kill in the league, so we do have some great defense on the penalty kill. And then our power play percentage hasn't been good at 20th in the league at 14.9%. So there definitely needs to be a little bit more consistency in our offense if we obviously want to be a good team this year. But our defense, I'd say, has definitely been the standout so far. Mainly probably the goaltending, because Solovyov, as you can see on the bottom, is rocking a .915 save percentage so far through 17 games. So he's off to a career start this year, which makes sense because he is a pending free agent. Now, there is a chance we are going to be able to lock him up in this episode, because we were looking at his contract in the last episode, and it seems like we might be able to get him on an actually nice team-friendly deal. So I'm hoping that he'll accept that if we offer that to him, because obviously if he does, then we don't have to worry about goaltending for another 8 years or so, pretty much, which is nice. So anyways, with that said, let's get in your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we will maybe make some lineup adjustments and continue to simulate the rest of the season, or not the rest of the season, most of the season, I should say, up to the deadline, see how this team's looking like at that point, and then we can make some decisions on which direction we want to go. So the first three comments are from Garage TV. The first one says, also noticed you're missing AHL coaches. So he's saying that I'm missing some AHL coaches, which I don't think I'm missing that much, if I remember correctly. Okay, actually maybe we are. No, it's not that bad. We're only missing an AHL assistant. The reason why I usually leave like one coaching spot vacant, let's actually move Straka to AHL assistant coach, because we don't necessarily need a goalie coach down there. The reason why I basically leave one coaching spot available is that way if I do need to make some adjustments in terms of coaches, like demoting people and all that stuff, I could still do that. Obviously, if there's 8 coaches and no slots available, I basically have to fire a coach, which I don't really want to do. So for now, basically, I just leave that one spot vacant, and then I could just kind of flip-flop these guys. Like, I can move Gertzen for the NHL, move somebody down if I want to, all that type of thing. So it just makes it a little bit more easier with the coaching staff, in my opinion. He also says, also watching more of it right now, and I definitely would get the Iginla brothers, but for sure just get Joe Iginla. So he wants me to still go after Joe Iginla, who we were mentioning about in last episode. We decided to take Jaskalainen instead from the Penguins, and so far Jaskalainen has been pretty solid, I would say. Obviously, he's not the most insane player in the world, but he's got 12 points through 19 games, 7 goals, so he is doing better, I think, right now with us than he was doing with the Pittsburgh Penguins. But he still wants me to go after potentially at some point Joe Iginla from Chicago, which, I mean, there is a chance we could go for him at some point, but I'm not too sure when. He's also kind of simulating pretty similarly to Jaskalainen at the moment, with 8 goals and 14 points through 20 games. Right now, I'm not too sure if I'd bring him in, but there is a chance he could be a free agent really soon, because I think, yeah, he's only got 1 year left on his deal. I'm not too sure if he's a UFA at the end of this contract or not. I could actually take a look at that, but if he is, maybe he's somebody that we'd look at in the offseason if we still need more scoring, or if we need to trade somebody away to basically find somebody else, we could always maybe bring him in instead. But if we go to the contract situation in Chicago, does he have an extension in place, or is he actually like a pending free agent, or what is the case with him at the moment? He is a pending RFA. Okay, so it looks like he's got one more year of RFA status, so they probably will hold on to him for at least one more year, my guess. But after that, then there's a chance that he could be heading to free agency relatively soon, unless they give him a multi-year deal, of course, which I'm obviously kind of hoping that they don't do that. And lastly, Garage also says, noticed Cook is definitely not first-line material in my personal opinion, and he's kind of a mixed bag. He's definitely not listed as like a first-line type of player. Right now, he's off to his worst start of the season yet, with only 2 goals, I think it was. Yeah, or no, 3 goals in 19 games. He does have 15 points, so it's pretty solid. But he's definitely not producing like he was last few years, because he's been a 30-goal guy for the most part of his career. But yeah, definitely not off to a good start this season. So there is a chance so that obviously at some point maybe we move on from Cook or something like that, find ourselves somebody that actually can produce more consistently. But for right now, obviously Cook is fine where he is. I just don't know what the reason is, because we do have him on the first line power play as well. Like, you think he would be producing on there. Like, I don't know if maybe it's because he's better on the point. Like, if we changed him and Bjorkstrand around, would this help his goal scoring a bit, because maybe he's more shooting from the point, and then whoever's in this position is more setting it up. Like, I don't think I addressed the strategies that much. Maybe I should start addressing the strategies a bit. I don't know if this impacts the sim engine too much though. Like if I instead had the finisher set up as Cook, and then the distributor Makinen, puck carrier, we set this as Houghton, and then maybe that unit simulates a little bit better. Maybe our offense actually gets going a bit. And the next comment is from Simon Otaku, says, I didn't realize Bjorkstrand improved his faceoffs that much, as that stat was very low when you drafted him. Florida has no state income tax, so any contract signed is worth 5 to 10% more there than any other states. The difference is probably greater versus Canada. New Mexico doesn't have one either, so your aliens players are enjoying that tax-free life. See how Cook simulates for the trade deadline, and if his goal scoring doesn't dramatically improve, ship him out to get assets back. Sign Solovyov to that contract as well. So he's saying basically if Cook doesn't improve by the deadline, then he could be somebody that we'd look to flip at the trade deadline. And I think that's probably a realistic option, is to wait till the deadline, see if he improves his goal scoring, because 3 goals right now is pretty low start, but I think he's just been a little bit snake bitten. I think he could definitely get back up to the 20 plus goal range, but obviously if he's not going to reach that, maybe we look into trading him, since I think he is a pending UFA at the moment. So he could definitely be somebody that we trade away, and then obviously we could find ourselves a new top 6 right winger. We have Jaskalainen, who could still become maybe that type of guy. Maybe Seal Fido outgrows his potential, that type of thing. So at least we have options if we do move out from Cook at some point. But he is saying to sign that Solovyov contract, which I think is definitely a no-brainer. I'll get to that in a little bit, because there's other people that were mentioning about Solovyov as well. But yeah, I definitely think Solovyov, getting him back on, like, I think it was an 8-year extension, would be very, very solid for our team. The next comment is from Dylan Burrows, who says, Boyd on that third line is diabolical. So he's kind of calling me out for putting Boyd on that top 6 pairing. The only reason I did that was just because of the chemistry. However, I did realize afterwards that if I move Sierra back down, it goes down to even chemistry, like there's no pluses, so it's kind of a bit of a worse chemistry. But putting him next to Hottonen, I think, is actually a pretty solid option. Then we still have Pekka Samalainen and Sierra and Latin. So we'll go back to this. Even though it doesn't have any pluses or negatives, it's just a pretty balanced defensive core. Like, I don't know if this current coach that we have is the best coach for us, so maybe we still look for different coaches in the future. But for right now, I think that's a little solid addition. And obviously, once Frondell's back from injury, we will be a lot more solid on the offensive side of things as well. The next comment is from Ryan the Shark, who says that Solovyov contract is gold. So he's also saying, hey, Solovyov contract to do it. So we'll definitely get to offering him that at least in this episode. So right after we finish through these comments, we'll probably go offer him a contract extension and see if he's willing to accept that money. And the last and final comment is from Bears Back to Back, who says this team would have been on another level with Fiddler. It's too bad he went to Florida. On other thoughts, this team is will be a really good contender. I'd say in 3 to 5 years, this team will have at least one cup if the sim is nice to you, with a laughing face. So he thinks that we could win a cup in the next 3 to 5 years if this sim engine is nice to us, which I'm obviously hoping it is. I think this team definitely is getting closer. Obviously, it's not like the best roster on paper right now, but if these guys are growing well, if they're starting to produce well, if the chemistry is better, I definitely see this team obviously making the playoffs and going for a run at some point. So hopefully we get there, obviously, but it's going to take still a little bit more growth, I think, before this team's fully competitive. competitive. But with that said, I think we need to get to that contract extension, seeing if Solovyov will accept it, because it seems like a pretty good deal to me. Also to a couple of you guys. I hope that the offer is still the exact same. It didn't change in between episodes somehow. Let's see. Okay, it's still the same. So he's asking for an 8-year deal at 7.5. That would be absolutely perfect. His organizational interest is a little bit lower. It's not terribly low, which is good. So I can't really drop it down by any more than this. But yeah, 7.5 for an 8-year contract for a guy that's pretty much an elite goaltender is definitely, I'd say, a no-brainer. It's only 6.9% of our cap space too, so I think we're definitely going to offer him it, and I really hope that he accepts this, because if he does, that would be a very nice extension to have in place. So, yeah, would be great, because I think the longer we wait on Solovyov, the more money he's going to ask for. Because I could see him asking for over $10 million near the end of the season if we don't give him a contract extension right now, basically. So, we'll hope that he accepts that. And I think we are pretty much ready to continue Simulate. I don't know if there's any line adjustments I want to make other than that Boyd adjustment on the defensive side of things. We already addressed the chemistry stuff on the power play a little bit with the setup in terms of the strategies. Like, I think having... wait, did it just readjust it to Bjorkstrand? I think it did. That's weird. Maybe it's because they were both in the same position before. Let me go back to edit strategies. Okay, there we go. Now it's still the same. Okay, good. What about power play line 2? What is the setup looking like for this unit? Shaw as the distributor. Jaskalainen is the finisher. Okay, that kind of makes some sense. Crane is the puck carrier. It doesn't really matter too much as long as these guys are getting some opportunities to set up people. But I think that's good. I think that's good. Trying to think if there's any other adjustments I'd make. Don't think so. Once we get Frundell back, at least this team should start simulating a little bit better. We are currently in a playoff spot right now, I think it was. Yeah, we are. We're in the 3rd playoff spot right now. And the only team that's really kind of competing with us in our division is the Rangers at the moment. Obviously, we do got to be worried about the Atlantic Division, though, because the Lightning have the same amount of points as us, yet they're outside of the playoffs at the moment. So the Atlantic Division is usually always the strong division that we need to worry about more so than our own division. But let's continue to simulate. Obviously, we didn't simulate a ton in last episode, but we are going to probably simulate to a day before the deadline in this episode, and then we can make the decision with Cook going forward. Like I said, Cook only on 3 goals is not good, but if he could get himself up to like maybe 10 plus by the end of this month or end of January, maybe we're starting to think they hold on to him a little bit longer, but for right now, obviously, it's a little bit up in the air. So let's go to the end of December and see if this team can be above 500 still at the end of it, because this is still a pretty tough year for our team, and I'm not too sure if this team is going to be competitive by the end of it or not. And look at that. That is awesome. Alexander Solovyov, I accept your offer enthusiastically. You met my contract duration expectations well. So Solovyov is on board for 8 years, so that means at least the move that we made with Khudobin actually was one that made a lot of sense. Khudobin didn't have a lot of organizational interest here, so we prioritized Solovyov, and now we have come to terms with Solovyov, who will be signed from ages 26 to 34, I think, pretty much, if I'm not mistaken. So that's really, really nice. And I'm very happy to have him on board, because I think he could definitely improve as these seasons go on, because this year he's been very good so far. So if he continues like that, obviously he could be maybe a Vezina Trophy winning goaltender during that contract extension potentially. So very happy to have our goaltender on board. Like $7.5 million for a goaltender of that overall is pretty damn solid in my opinion. So it's not like we overpaid on him. Like we didn't have to pay 10 plus million bucks. So very happy with that to start this episode. Let's decline that. There's a win again. Okay, we're on a winning streak to start off this episode, so that might be really good for our playoff chances if we continue playing like this. Then again, usually after we win a lot, we end up going on a losing streak. So, and there's 2 losses in a row, 3 losses in a row. See, that's what I mean. We can't really count our chickens too quick here. And then ours 2 wins in a row after 3 losses in a row. Like, we're definitely still really inconsistent, but this is definitely a good start to the episode in terms of wins. We are now 20, 12, and 1. I was going to say 21 potentially, but then we lost to Utah. So we are currently 3rd place in our division by 6 points. We do have 2 more games played than the Rangers, though. That's the one thing that's a little bit up in the air. But yeah, I'm really glad that we're not in that Atlantic division, because literally 3 teams are tied with 41 points. Bruins are on 37 in the wild card. So right now we're in a pretty good spot if we continue to win games like this. I'm really hoping that obviously those guys that have been struggling early in the season are doing a lot better than that, though. So right now we might be a playoff team if we continue to play like this. So hopefully these games against like the Rangers and stuff like that, we're able to win, though, because we don't want the Rangers to take our last playoff spot. So let's continue to simulate. Let's actually go to the 15th, take it a little bit slower this month of January, see if we can win more games here. We do beat Detroit. We beat Vegas. Carolina, we win in overtime. Buffalo, 4-0 loss. That's okay. We do also lose to the Devils 1-0, and then we lost 2-1. So a little bit of a dry spell offensively before we beat Toronto. We only scored 1 goal in a 3-game span, but 24, 15, and 1 is pretty damn good. This team's actually finally starting to simulate decently. We're 3 points up on the Rangers, who now have that last wild card spot. And then in terms of the Atlantic Division, teams outside of it have 45 and 44. We're on 49. So it's definitely going to be a race to the end here this season. But if the team continues to simulate like it's been simulating so far in this episode, we could definitely make it to the postseason this year. So let's go to the end of January and see if we can continue winning some games here. We do beat the Rangers, so that's nice considering they're right on our ass pretty much. We do lose to Ottawa. Game against Boston is a win, 5-2. Nice. Okay. Bjorkstrand's been injured with an injured ribs. What does it mean by an injured ribs? It just should say injured ribs. Like, I don't even know. But that's not great. He's only out till February 2nd, so it's not long term. But losing Bjorkstrand is definitely a big loss, probably for the offensive side of things, I would assume. I'd assume he's having a good year this year considering he's a pending RFA, but I'm not too sure on that. We do beat San Jose. Game against the Minnesota Wild coming up is going to be another win in a shootout, and then we beat the Leafs. So 30-17-1. I think this team's going to make it back to the playoffs this year based on this so far, unless we come crashing back down. But this has been definitely a way better start than I anticipated to this episode. So very, very happy with that. Let's take Kaminsky out, get Bjorkstrand back in. I'm going to look at Cook's stats, I think, here shortly, just because I am pretty curious on what he's up to now. But, yeah, we're 1 point back of the actual lead in the Metropolitan Division now. It is quite tight because the Flyers are up there now in the wild card with 58 points. So there is a lot of teams still pretty close to us in this playoff race. However, the teams in the Atlantic, some of them have fallen off. So Bruins and Sens are on 50 points. Lightning are on 47. We're on 61. Last wildcard spot has 58 and 57. So it is still pretty tight, but the teams that are outside of the playoffs are down by like 8 points. So we're in a pretty damn good spot here at this point in the season. Obviously, just got to keep it going. But Solovyov numbers have dropped off from a 915 after that contract extension to a 906. So his goals against is good, though, at 2.93, but maybe we probably didn't jump the gun on that contract extension. I don't think it's one that's going to hurt us regardless. If he's posting up a 906, at least that's going to help us win games and stuff at this point. But let me take a look here at our lines for a second. I do see that Crane's leading us some points with 46 at the moment. But I do want to go to our lines here and take an updated look at Cook's goal scoring and see if he's improved. Because he was on 3 goals. We adjusted the lines a little bit. He's getting basically the point on the power play instead. Has he scored more goals? He actually tripled up his goals. He's up to 9 goals now, which is still kind of low, but he has improved a bit. 9 goals in 48 games. What is that on pace for, basically? Let me do some calculations here. 9 divided by 48, and then times that by 82. And he's on pace for a 15-goal season still. That's not great, to be honest. He is also -9, but 35 points in 48 games is pretty good, in my opinion. He's just becoming more of a setup guy this year than anything. Right now, I'm not too sure still if he's trade bait or not. He's definitely a little bit skunked in terms of goals, but his point totals are solid, so it's a bit of an interesting one. Okay. And right now, in terms of our team stats, though, a lot of our team stats have improved. We are still the number 1 penalty kill team in the league. We are 12th on the power play, so that's improved. We're goals against our 16th, so a little bit still not great there. But our goals for per game have jumped up to 8th place. So our offense has jumped up a lot in the last month or so. So we're definitely doing a lot better scoring-wise than we used to. And the crazy thing is, we played 48 games. Our team leader's 46 points. So we must have good depth scoring because nobody is a point per game on this team right now. So I think we obviously are having good depth scoring, and our defense has been somewhat solid. Our goaltending has kind of dropped off a bit in this episode, but for the most part, this team might be a playoff team with some average stats, which is interesting. So we're only going to get better from here on out, too, I think. So let's go to the 28th to the end of February and see if we're still at this type of record, which we probably should be because there's not a lot of games this month. We do lose the first game in a month 7-0, so shout out to the defense for playing bad that game. We do lose to Boston as well, 5-3, so hopefully we do not lose every single game this month, or else I might be a little bit inclined to make some adjustments again. But Washington, 4-1 win, nice. Colorado, 3-0 loss. A little bit of a slow start to the month, of course. Game against Anaheim, 4-2 win. New Jersey, 3-2 loss. Yeah, it's definitely a slow start to the month, but I knew this team isn't going to be super consistent as the season goes on, in a sense, because we're still learning as a young team. Philadelphia, 6-3 loss. Oof. Utah, 3-1 loss. Oh my God, this is a bad month so far. Dallas, 2-1 loss. Oh my goodness, this team's trying to blow the playoff spot, isn't it? Shaw has now been injured with a sprained ankle. I'll go replace player on that. And we lost to the Blackhawks. So in the month of February, only 2 wins for the team. And we have dropped to 32-25-1. Yikes, that's not great. We have dropped down to a wild card position, and we're only 1 point up now on the Bruins, who are behind us. And we're up 5 points on the Devils. This is going to be a tight race right till the end of the season, and I don't know which version of the team we're going to get basically every single month, because it was a really good month of January and also a solid month of December near the end of it and stuff. So that was a very month of February. If we would have done a lot better than that, we could easily have been a better team and maybe a top in our division, but we've fallen off a lot. And Slovyov numbers have dropped down to a 903 now. And we're 2-8 in our last 10 games. So that's a little bit iffy. A little bit iffy. We do still have a couple more games before we reach a trade deadline. So let's do these 3 games. We aren't going to be able to go through this Vegas game yet, but we'll take a look at some player stats and see if there's anything we need to do going forward. But we do beat the Flames, so that's a nice way to start off March. Anaheim is going to be a loss, and same with Edmonton. Oh boy. 33-27-1. Our team is definitely fallen off. We are not in a playoff spot anymore. We are 2 points back of a wild card spot, and we are definitely not a top 3 team in our division right now. Yikes. That last stretch, very, very bad. 3 wins in our last, I don't know how many games, but yikes. I was not expecting that much of a drop-off in a month, but we have dropped down to 15th in goals for now from 8th, which is kind of insane. Our goals against have also gotten worse. Our penalty kills dropped to 3rd. Our power play is still around 16th, so special teams are still okay, but regular strength, we need a lot of work. Frondell's now leading us with 57 points through a total of 61 games this season, so this team is very weird. Very weird, and I don't really know if we should still try and push for the playoffs or we just keep the team as is, because obviously if we're giving up picks or whatever to get good players in or something like that to try and make ourselves a team for the playoffs, we might not make the playoffs, and then we getting rid of picks is not good. So I don't know if it's good to kind of just hold on to this team and see what happens, but definitely a really rough stretch here for this team. So if we look at the player stats right now, Bjorkstrand's been good this season on 50 points through 57 games. Mäkinen's on 41 points, but minus 17. So that second line's been really bad defensively, and I'm not too sure why. Ericsson's on 25 points in his rookie season. Zikov's on 18 points. Kaminsky on 5 and 8 as a depth forward is fantastic. So not really too mad at any of these players. Mäkinen, I'm mad at his defensive play. Bjorkstrand I've been okay with, of course, and Eriksson, since he's a rookie, there's no problems really with him there. He has dropped off to an 80. His individual performance-wise dropping a bit, apparently. Left wing side of things, Frondell's on 57 points in 59 games. He's a minus 14, but he has been our best offensive player again, despite missing some games due to injury this year. But yeah, his last 3 years in plus-minus have been pretty bad. Crane's on 53 points. He's been really solid again. 27 goals this year for Kevin Crane. He continues to be one of our best players on this team. Ciofito's on 35 points in his rookie season. That's actually really nice to see. So some good stuff from Ross Ciofito as an 18-year-old. Shala's on 33 points in 58 games, -8. He is currently injured. Leeson 24 points, +4. Pretty solid rookie year for him so far. Olin on 1 assist in 5 games. Right wing side of things, Cook's up to 10 goals and 42 points, but he's -19. So my question to you guys is Cook on the chopping block? Is he going to get cooked and burnt to shit and sent somewhere else? Because 10 goals is definitely not his type of bread and butter. 42 points is solid, but I don't like the defensive play. And the lack of goal scoring this year has been pretty bad. Like, we would be able to get him back probably in the offseason for cheap because the fact that he's having a bit of a down year, I think. But, yeah, that's a pretty rough year for him in terms of goals and also the plus-minus department. Like, we might need somebody that actually can play better defensively. Like, right now, Jääskeläinen has been playing better, I would say. He's got more goals. He's got less points, sure, but a better plus-minus result as well. So, Jääskeläinen's been a solid fit here so far, I'd say. But yeah, Cook is just not bringing that goal scoring that he was bringing before. Like, Cook is still a serviceable, I feel like, third line guy, but I don't know if he's a top 6 guy. Like, we could hold on to Cook and use him more as a third liner. Jääskeläinen can maybe go back up into the top 6, and then we find another right winger at some point. But we could always wait till the offseason to make those decisions. But Cook should probably get traded potentially next episode. And then Wallace is on 11 points so far, which is not too bad. Still listed as a depth forward, but might be a fourth liner soon. From a defensive standpoint, Houghton's on 42 points. He's having a pretty good year too. So shout out to Olli Houghton, who is probably going to have a career season, I think, based on that. I'm not too sure. Let me do some calculations again. I just like to see how much people are on pace for. So 42 points divided by 61 games. We times that by 82 if he plays all 82. He's on pace for 56 points around, so pretty similar to last year, where last year he played not an 82-game season, so a little bit less, but still a better plus-minus result, so Olli's been good. Salmelainen's actually been pretty solid offensively, but his plus-minus has been atrocious. So 22 points is good, but a -16 is pretty rough. It's that Salmelainen and Pecker pairing that's not been that good. Both of them are -16. You have Boyd, who's somehow a +15. So Boyd's been very good defensively for us, which is nice. But yeah, Pecker and Salmelainen, I don't think they work well together. So we probably need to make an adjustment in terms of that defensive pairing. Latinen's been good defensively in his first season so far. Sierra's a -6, but that's not that bad compared to the -16s. And Pratt's only played 2 games. Goaltending-wise, Solovyov has dropped down to a .903. He does have 2 shutouts, but a bit of a weird season for Solovyov. He is doing worse than last year, which is kind of weird considering this team's closer to the playoffs than it was last year. I don't know if it's the team in front of him or what, but he's definitely struggling a bit this season. It was like a good start to the year. Like if we go to the split stats here, if we go early into the season, in 899, he had a 922 in November and 890 in December, despite us winning a lot more games. The month that we won a lot of games in January, he was a 906, which is not too bad. But then you can see February, an 884. March, a 903 so far, which is not too bad. But yeah, he's had a really rough February especially. So he's got to be more consistent a bit. Nicolin's still not that great either. So if we had a better backup, would we be playing better? I honestly don't know. So, are not scoring enough right now. And we do have some really bad plus-minus results. Like if we actually look at our entire skaters here, look at the plus-minuses. These are the guys I'm worried about in plus-minus, pretty much. The guys that are -10 and more than that. Frondell's probably because he gets a ton of ice time. Salmelainen and Pecker have been terrible together. And then Mäkinen and Cook have been pretty bad on that same line. Like Mäkinen and Cook probably, I think right now they don't play on the same line, maybe on the same power play line. I'm not too sure, but we probably need to make some sort of adjustment in that area. Like these guys are good offensively, don't get me wrong, but the plus-minus result, And then Boyd's been a complete outlier in the plus minus department. Complete outlier. There's been a lot of other solid plus minus guys. Like these guys I've been impressed with, I think, in the plus minus department. And then even the even zero guys, the ones that are only -1 is not bad. Wallace being only -4 is not terrible. But when you get like up there like -8 plus, it's like need to be a bit better defensively. Need to be a little bit better. So a little bit of a weird season this has been. We started off terribly, or kind of like 500-ish. We had a really good month, all of a sudden went way above 500, but then we fell off a cliff. And now we don't know really what to do with this team at the deadline. It's very strange. All right. Well, final few things we got to take a look at before we end off this episode. We'll take a look at the draft class as well, because maybe the draft class will sway us to kind of just not make the playoffs again this year. But if we want to push for the playoffs, obviously we got to take a look at some trade options as well. So let's go to the trading block and see if there's anything crazy out there that could potentially help us. Like I said, we could move out Cook this year potentially and find a better right winger for that spot, either in the offseason or via this trade. But definitely I think Cook could be the guy we move just because of his lack of goal scoring this year. And then eventually he'll probably go on to score like a 40-goal season somewhere else. Watch, but I think we could move on from him. But I don't really know what type of players are out there that we could bring in for that top line. Like Jaskalainen to me has been better than him just because of the goal scoring department. Porter Martone's still an RFA the entire year. Damn, maybe we should have traded for him instead of Jaskalainen or something like that. Or maybe he's somebody that we could trade for this season. Like maybe we move Cook to Columbus, we get more Martone basically in, and Martone can't play basically the rest of the season because he was an RFA, I think, which means we could probably get him for dirt cheap at the draft, actually, for that matter, because there's a good chance that they lose him to free agency. Like they must be right up against the cap. If Martone doesn't re-sign in Columbus, we could bring him in as one of the right wingers, but I'm not too sure if he's that big of an upgrade. Like, obviously, I feel like we needed somebody super high-end on that right side. Like, we could still use Bjorkstrand as that right wing guy. And then find another center, like we were looking at last year when we were looking at Fiddler. And Fiddler decided to go to Florida instead. We could definitely still look for a different center instead. But, yeah, this has been a really, really weird season. I was expecting after how our team did to start this episode that we'd be doing a lot better. And we'd be definitely in the playoff spot right now. But that last month in February especially, and then the start off the next month has been pretty bad. Joachim Kamel's an 85 is not bad, but he is already 29. Not a super crazy offensive goal scorer, though. He did have 71 points one season. But he is 29 years old. Signed for 4 years. It's not a terrible contract, but I don't know if he's what I want. Rangers have nothing, probably just prospects. Like, we definitely could still make the playoffs for sure this season. So maybe we still try to make the playoffs, but we move Cook for somebody better. But at the same time, I don't know if I want to give up picks and then our team ends up missing and then we end up getting rid of a lottery pick or something like that, right? We just want to make sure we're making the right decisions at the right time, not jumping the gun too much. Like, this team has definitely been better than I'd say than last season in some ways. Other ways, maybe not so much. But I definitely think we could still make it to the postseason, and that would at least be better than last year. Now, I don't know if we'll be going far in the playoffs this year if we do make it. But it could be still some good learning experience for the young guys, so that wouldn't be a bad option in that way. So there wasn't really anything I saw in that block, which is not great. Let me see here. What is Cook's value even looking like out of curiosity? What is Cook's value looking like? Because he is a pending free agent. He has a pretty solid chunk of value. Pretty solid chunk of value. A lot of teams would be interested in him, it looks like, too. So, yeah, we could probably trade him away. Maybe there's not that much teams anymore. I don't know. But I'm not too sure on what we'd bring in. Like, if we just look at right wingers around the league, there's somebody that we could basically just flip him for. Misselli, even Seattle actually is okay looking already. 84 overall, 18 goals this season, 35 last year. This guy kind of might be an intriguing player. He's not the best overall low lead, but he has better shooting categories than Cook. Way better defense, too. This guy might actually be intriguing. Would the value be similar? I'm obviously going to leave this up to you guys for next episode, but yeah, it looks like we would easily be able to get Michelli and maybe a pick for Cook if we did that. And then basically we have still a chance to make the playoffs, and we get ourselves an extra pick or something like that. But Seattle is in the playoffs right now, so I'm not too sure if they'd want to do a deal like that. It wouldn't be that much of an upgrade for them, so I'm not too sure. So there's that. Let's take a look at the draft class here. So we do have our first round pick this year, correct? Just got to double check on that. We should probably have all of our picks, I think, because I usually don't trade those away. We have 2 first rounders, though. Yeah, that's right. We have Vegas's first, which right now I honestly have no idea where Vegas is in the standings. I didn't take a look at that. We also do have a second. We do not have a third. We have a 4th, 5th, and a 6th, and a 7th. Where is Vegas in the standings? Because I didn't take a look at that. They're 31, 26, and 4. They're 7, 2, and 1 in their last 10 games. They are probably... Let's see. They aren't in a playoff spot. So they're having a solid season, which is not what I was expecting. However, they're 2 points back of a wild card spot in the Pacific Division. So there is a chance that they could still miss. If both of us miss, we have 2 lottery picks, which is interesting. So maybe there's a chance we could get a lottery pick even if we do make the playoffs and Vegas somehow doesn't. There is a franchise sniper supposed to go first overall this year. Now, he is in the center position, but maybe we could try and get this guy to play right wing if we somehow won this guy. I don't even know. Yuri Arkhipov. All right. So there's him. There's also another goal scorer in Darren Bates, who's listed as a gem. All right. Couple snipers. There's also Scrivens. No right wingers in this top a little bit, which is not great. This guy might be elite as a right wing playmaker in Gregory Lehman, but he also could be a top 6. DeAndre Draper. Looks like it's going to be a solid draft class, but I don't know if that's going to sway me to try and drop off. There's a low elite 2-way defenseman supposed to go late first round. Ooh, Robinson Schaefer is going to be pretty damn good. I don't even know if we're going to be able to get that, but if we get that with Vegas's pick, if they somehow make the playoffs and we don't, that would be really nice. Not that we need defensive help that much, but nice. Okay. Yeah, I think this draft class is going to be good. Any other elite players that I could pin already for later rounds, just for fun? Not that I care too much about the draft already, but just because I like looking at these prospects and seeing how good some of them are. So there's no other guaranteed low elites, but Savage could be potentially a low elite. Hagman, maybe. Ooh, Hagman probably is, I feel like, just based on all those B stats, but I'm not too sure. Rudder, probably low overall guy. Chubarov, probably not. That's pretty much that. Okay. So the question is, what direction do we want to go? Like, if we go to the standings here for a second, what do we want to do? Because I think this team could definitely still squeak into a playoff spot, but like if we go Eastern Conference at the moment, these last 2 wildcard spots are on 71 and 69. We are up here with 67. Now, we're lucky that Ottawa's played 63 games. They're only a point up on us, and they've played 2 more games. So, Ottawa's probably somebody that we could still easily leapfrog. Boston, we could probably knock out of the playoffs. Toronto, we probably can. Everybody else is in a divisional spot. And if you look at our division, it's been pretty strong. Columbus is leading it with 78 points. Philly's on 76. Rangers are on 75. So if we want to get into a divisional spot, we'd have to basically take the Rangers, who are in 75 points, which is 8 points up on us, and they have a game in hand on us. So that's going to be pretty tough. But we definitely can set ourselves into a wildcard spot and knock out either Boston or Toronto. But we definitely would need to... we definitely need to find our offensive game, which means maybe getting rid of Cook and finding somebody that could score instead on that line. I mean, Cook has been good, but our defensive play as well from some of those guys have been pretty atrocious. So I'm not too sure exactly what we need to do better. It's probably a lot of different things we need to do better, but because from a goals for perspective, we aren't near the bottom of the league in goals for, which is good. But like in goals against, we're probably pretty down there, right? Yeah, 3.23. We've literally scored actually the exact same amount of goals as we've allowed this season. So, offensive upgrades, defensive upgrades, something needs to happen there, I think. And then power play percentage has been okay. It's not been great, though. Penalty kills have been good. We're really good on home ice, apparently, 19 and 13, but on the road, we're 500. So, we need to find a ways to win away from our home rink, apparently, too. All right. Final thing that I actually do want to take a look at, because I meant to do this in this episode already, was taking a look at the AHL, because I am curious on how the AHL has been simulating. They are 23, 23, and 6 at the moment through, I guess that would be 52 games. Let me just take a look at some of their player stats. Lindros on 49 points. Like, we do have guys we could call up if we want to make some adjustments. Like, Lindros could be up here easily as a depth option or a fourth line option. Leahy's on 39 points. He is pretty close to being ready. Like, maybe next season. Not this season, though, I don't think. Giordano is also very close. So these two guys could easily make the jump next year. Lindros could jump back up this season. Sven Prince isn't ready yet. Boblev probably won't even be close for a while. Maybe a couple of years, but he's already 22. Leg on 35 points. Actually, he's pretty damn close to being a fourth line option, too. So that's nice. Bure on 20 points, up to a 71. Seems like we're getting pretty good growth down there in the minors. But, yeah, Liam Prince, unfortunately, is not going to pan out here. Former first-round pick. That's one of our worst picks we've made. Right wing side of things, Neela Kainen's actually been pretty good. He's up to a 77. He also could make the NHL soon. Bathgate is a 21, or 21 points. Not as a 21. I don't know why I just said that. Rokan, 21. Probably not going to pan out. Defensively, there is Noel Franson who could come up and give us an offensive boost from the back end, but don't really know who I would take out. Unila on 31 points as well. All right. What about goaltending? Smith's on an 899. Hainsey's on a 911. That's pretty solid. It's up to a 70 at 21. Smith's is up to a 73 at 21. All right. So not too bad from the AHL team. They're not scoring a ton, but there is options that we could call up, like I said, like Lindros this season. Leahy, I would probably wait for him and Giordano for next season. How is Leahy's offensive awareness looking now? Still really low. So that's one area I need Leahy to develop in a bit. Because, yeah, his passing is fantastic, but his offensive awareness is still kind of low. Maybe that's why he's not in the NHL yet. All right. So are they in a playoff spot in the AHL? Probably not, right? No, they're near the bottom. It looks like in the Atlantic Division. Okay. Well, we definitely have some decisions to make with our NHL team. I don't really know, like I said, which direction we want to choose, because obviously if we put too much into making the playoffs, we might end up falling off and missing the playoffs. If we put too little in, obviously, then we miss the playoffs, and we have to get rid of maybe somebody like Cook for assets, basically. So, anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of New York Islanders Franchise Mode. So next episode, we'll take us through the trade deadline. We'll make our decision then what we want to do with this team, but I think we definitely could still, like I said, jump into that last wildcard spot. But the last month or so, this team has been very bad, so not too sure if they're going to start finding their game again in the month of March, but who knows, maybe it's an inconsistent season like that. So I think that below, and I'll see you guys next time.